What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm going to be giving you my Big Ten power rankings after week 2. This week was a crazy week in the Big Ten. It was, sarcastically, a lot of fun to figure out power rankings this week as teams in the top were losing, teams in the bottom were winning. So there's going to be a lot of shuffling around in these power rankings. So let's not waste any more time. Go ahead and get right on into it. And we have a new team at the bottom of the Big Ten. It is the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of it is not their fault. They are having some COVID trouble. So Brandon Peters is going to be out for a couple more weeks, along with some other players. But they dropped 2 spots from last week's rankings. And you see just not good numbers overall. Only around 15 points per game, granted only 2 games, but allowing 38 points while again, giving up about 100 yards more than they're gaining. Just not really impressed with this Illinois team. In my final preseason rankings, I said I wouldn't be surprised if this team climbs higher, but this team has fallen to the dead last bottom, and I don't know if they're going to be able to get back up anytime soon with the way they're playing. They lost against Purdue last week. It was a valiant effort. Illinois fought back towards the end, maybe could have tied it, but it was not meant to be. But the Illinois Fighting Illini are at the bottom of this list. All right, number 13 is the Iowa Hawkeyes. They have dropped 3 spots from last week's poll. They lost Northwestern 21-20 after giving up a 17-point lead. Stats aren't terrible for Iowa, but you see they have pretty interesting game next week facing Michigan State. Iowa has started off 0-2, hence why they are number 13. I did expect this program to take a step back, and developing a young quarterback in Spencer Petras is not always easy. And Iowa is learning that right now. So this team definitely has taken steps back. And Amir Smith-Marset got into some trouble with the law, so he is not going to be playing against Michigan State either. And Iowa, again, still dealing with stuff that went on the off. Just so much happening at this Iowa program right now. Definitely don't expect them, or I didn't expect them to have as productive as a year as they normally do. Hence, they are showing what I proved. Maybe they'll win a game or 2 here and there, but for right now, Iowa is going to be at number 13. All right, at number 12, only dropping 1 spot are the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. They had that crazy lateral play that I wish would have counted, but they lost to a pretty good Indiana team who we will talk about later. But they are 12th. They only dropped 1 spot. They have a doozy of a game next week against Ohio State. You see that there's points per game. Again, they need to improve on defense, and their offense just needs to start gaining more yards. Rutgers, I feel, can be a solid team this year. I don't think they're showing that quite yet, and I don't think they're going to show it, as Ohio State's going to be the team to watch in next week's game. This will also be a homecoming for Greg Schiano, who recently spoke that he had a great experience at Ohio State and is looking forward to playing the Buckeyes this week. Rutgers looked all but newfound in that win over Michigan State, and then against Indiana, they didn't really look great. They were up 7. They were up 7-0 early. Indiana sort of fought back, got a big lead, and Rutgers just couldn't come back. So lots of improvement to work on for Rutgers, and they're going to sit here at number 12. All right, at number 11, dropping 5 spots from last week's poll is the Minnesota Golden Gophers. This team is underachieving, in my opinion. We all knew that their defense and special teams were going to be questions, but missing an extra point is just inexcusable. It's the easiest kick of your life, and their defense is just abysmal. Through 2 games, they've allowed an average of 47 points and about 575 yards per game. This defense has to improve. They have the offense. They have pieces on the offense. They have a good quarterback. They have a pair of wide receivers that can really do some damage, and Mohamed Ibrahim is having a breakout season. But the defense is just flat out awful through the first 2 games. It's nowhere near what it was last year, and Minnesota's definitely taken steps back. And like I said in my week review, that 11-2 season is becoming a distant memory if you are a Minnesota season. They do get Illinois in their next game. It should be a fairly interesting one. It might be closer than you would expect, but Minnesota's defense has got to improve. Their offense is there, and I think even their offense has more potential to show. Minnesota all around has been a disappointment for me so far, and they lost to Maryland, hence why they are number 11. But speaking of Maryland, they wind up number 10 on this list. Minnesota's offense, or I should say Maryland's offense, seemed to be much better. This was a different Maryland team than we saw against Northwestern. They still gave up a lot of yards, and their defense could definitely improve. They escaped narrowly in that win against Minnesota. Again, if the kicker didn't miss that PAT, who knows what happens from there. But Maryland does move up spots because they did win a game to improve to 1-1, and this offense just looked explosive. I mean, wow, this offense looked pretty good against Minnesota. And this is the question now of, well, is Maryland's offense that good or is Minnesota's defense that bad? That's kind of what it comes down to. I think Maryland's offense can be that good. If you give this Maryland team the ball for a long period of time, they are going to make you pay. I think if you get or if this Maryland defense forces the rare turnover, I think the offense can make you pay as well. Hence, I said the rare turnover because their defense is the one thing that I do think needs overall improvement. Much like Minnesota, I think Maryland's offense can be there, but their defense is nowhere close. Maryland does move up from last place to number 10, but I don't see them moving any higher as of right now. All right, moving on to number 9, no penalizing Nebraska for not playing a game this week. It was not their fault. They were going to possibly play Chattanooga, but the Big Ten shut that down. Don't have much to say about Nebraska, although I will remind you the last game they played was a 17-52 loss against the Ohio State Buckeyes, and they had some great running success in that game. Again, it comes down to whether you want to play Luke McCaffrey more or Adrian Martinez more. But, yeah, not much to say about Nebraska because they did not play this week. I'll probably end up saying the stuff I said last week, but Nebraska, no penalty here. They stay at number 9. All right, moving up 5 spots from last week's poll is the Michigan State Spartans. Now, nearing the top half of the Big Ten, they are number 8. This team made a rebound in this game against Michigan. You go from turning the ball over 7 times against Rutgers to then going on or at home more or less, then beating Michigan on the road, and a Michigan team that just looked really good against Minnesota. Well, we're finding out how bad Minnesota's defense is, but I mean, Rocky Lombardi played great. A big win here for Michigan State, and Mel Tucker's first win as a Michigan State head coach, and what better team to get a win against as your first win? Am I right? They got next week coming up against Iowa. Could be an interesting game. Iowa, of course, is number 13 on my list. I've already talked about them. We'll have to see if Michigan State can keep this momentum going. But I do feel like Michigan State can be a solid team. I thought you would have to give Mel Tucker a couple more years, but it turns out Mel Tucker might have some things figured out earlier than he thought than we thought. Michigan State moving up in the polls. They could possibly move up more next week if they can beat Iowa, but for now, they're going to be at number 8. Number 7 is the team that Michigan State beat is the Michigan Wolverines. And the question I have as Michigan is, how do you go from looking really good offensively against a Minnesota team who now we're finding out how bad their defense is, to a Michigan State to not looking great against the Michigan State team that just has a lot of question marks? It just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, hence why Michigan dropped 4 spots. I didn't really feel like I needed to drop them below Michigan State. I still feel like if Michigan were to play Michigan State again, Michigan would beat Michigan State. You could fight me on that in the comments below, but they have an interesting game coming up against Indiana. And that's going to be an interesting game. They have to play offensively like they did against Minnesota if they're going to want to win that game. Indiana looks pretty darn good. to start off this Big Ten season. Again, Michigan just got to figure stuff out. And which Michigan is the real Michigan? Is it the explosive offensive Michigan, or is it the Michigan? You know, we're going to have to figure out. But for right now, Michigan is going to sit at number 7. They surely could rise a lot if they can beat Indiana this week. All right, at number 6, only dropping a spot. You don't fault them too much for losing to Ohio State. It's the Penn State Nittany Lions. Ohio State just proved they're the team that everyone thought they would be. And for Penn State, you start 0-2 for the first time in a long time. I do not fault Penn State that much for losing to an extremely talented Ohio State team without their best defensive player and their top 2 running backs. I don't fault them a lot. They played pretty well in this game, and Jahan Dotson is just proving that he is a crazy, crazy man. Some insane catches were made in that game. Penn State just, I think, has got to figure stuff out. They just have to adapt to the loss of those players, and I think Penn State can definitely do that. They can adapt to the loss of these players, and I think Penn State is going to get back on track. They have a game against Maryland next week, which I think they can all but win. I think it's a pretty much shoo-in for Penn State here, but Penn State dropping a spot to number 6 because they lost, and a loss does factor in my power ranking opinion at least, but you don't fault them too much. It was only a 13-point loss. They kept it pretty competitive through points against the best team in the Big Ten. Spoiler alert, but Penn State at number 6. All right, at number 5, jumping up 3 spots, are the Purdue Boilermakers. This team without Rondale Moore is playing extremely well. David Bell's taken over a lot of their responsibilities. Xander Horvath looks like an emerging running back star in the Big Ten. And they get a game against Wisconsin next week. Now, there are talks of them postponing this game. We'll have to wait and see if that does happen. As of recording this video, nothing has been canceled yet. Although I have read that it is trending towards being canceled. So looking like Purdue's not going to play this week, and I think it's just going to give another week for Rondale Moore to rest up if they end up not playing this game. Again, as of recording this, nothing has come out, but I think the defense definitely needs to improve. Giving up about 466 yards per game, that's not fantastic. Your offense is doing great, 420.5 yards per game, but, I mean, 466 yards, that sure, they're scoring more than their opponents, but soon that yardage is going to catch up against teams like Wisconsin, against teams like Northwestern, against a team like Indiana, which they also have to play. But Purdue has impressed me this season. They are the offensive juggernaut that I thought they were going to be. 31 points against Illinois doesn't say a whole lot, and their defense showed weaknesses when Illinois was starting to come back. But it looks like Purdue is going to have a bye week. Technically, it does not look like they're going to play Wisconsin, and we'll have to see what Purdue can do the week after. For right now, Purdue is going to sit at number 5. And at number 4, moving up 3 spots, are the Northwestern Wildcats. Now, the Northwestern Wildcats look really good on both sides of the ball. They were able to come back against Iowa and win that game, and they get Nebraska this week. Nebraska's looking to rebound after a loss. I didn't talk about them a whole lot because they just didn't play. But this Northwestern team looks really good. 405 yards per game, tack on 32 points per game, and their defense is as of right now looks like one of the best in the Big Ten. 250 yards per game with 11.5 points per game allowed. Now, granted, they haven't played the best of competition. They've played Maryland and Iowa, and then they get Nebraska. So they will definitely end up playing tougher games down the road. But for right now, Northwestern looks like one of the better teams in the Big Ten, hence why they are at number 4. All right, moving up a spot from last week's poll with a win against the Rutgers Scarlet Knights is the Indiana Hoosiers. And how about this team? After upsetting Penn State, they rise in the power rankings to number 4. Now they're rising again to number 3. And if Wisconsin doesn't play again this week and Indiana can beat Michigan, they very well can find themselves up to number 2. There we go. Indiana definitely, I think, has that potential. Their offense, while not getting a whole ton of yards, is getting a lot of points per game, averaging 36.5 points per game. And their defense, while it's not giving up as much points, it's the same kind of thing with Purdue. That yardage is going to turn into points against some better teams like Michigan, like Ohio State, like Penn State, like Purdue even, that teams Indiana has to play. So I think Indiana definitely has, or they've already played Penn State, but teams like Michigan, like Ohio State, like Purdue, they're going to generate a lot of points. So if Indiana wants to have a chance of upsetting another team like they hope to do this week against Michigan, they got to booster that defense somehow. Again, 382 yards is nothing to hang your head about, but that's still, it's a solid number. But I still think that the potential of this Indiana team can take it a step up, and I think we're going to end up seeing that step up here this week against Michigan. I think their offense can get more yards. Their offense is there. Their defense is almost there. This team is pretty complete, hence why Indiana is at number 3. I'm not going to talk about this team a lot. Wisconsin, you don't move them down for not playing this week. It is not their fault. They had a COVID outbreak again. It was an impressive performance against Illinois. Does not look like they're going to play this week against Purdue. Again, nothing has been confirmed as of recording this video, although something may come out later, as the decision is supposed to come later on Tuesday. That's the day I'm going to upload this video. So hopefully the decision's made by the time I upload this video, and you guys can let me know down in the comment section below. But it does not look like it is going to happen, as cases just keep rising in the Wisconsin locker room. We have no idea when Wisconsin is going to play again. We do not. The no contest at Nebraska does not factor into the standings, but you hope Wisconsin can get back on the field soon. But it looks like they're going to have their second straight bye week, and you can't fault them for that. They're going to stay here at number 2. And staying at number 1, this should come as no surprise to anyone, with a win over Penn State. It is the Ohio State Buckeyes, who already look like they have the most explosive offense in the Big Ten by a long shot. 45 points per game, 508 yards per game. Their defense is playing solid as well. This team improved from where they were against Nebraska. The run defense and run offense was a question, especially with the offensive line and defensive line. They fixed every single problem that they had against Penn State. It was an absolute dominant performance in and out. And as an Ohio State fan, I almost felt like it was a little bit too easy. Now, other people may disagree with me, but this Ohio State team looks pretty dominant, much like the Ohio State team of last year. I think this Ohio State team can be more explosive, though. I mean, this team is a shoo-in for the Big Ten championship after beating Penn State, arguably their toughest game after Michigan doesn't really look all that good, and I believe that they get Indiana at home this year. Now, that game could be a challenge for Ohio State, but they get Rutgers this week. It should be a fairly easy week for Ohio State. And there is no debate, in my opinion, on why Ohio State is the number 1 team in the Big Ten. All right, there you have it. Those are my power rankings for the Big Ten after week 2. If you guys enjoyed this video, please do leave a like. Also consider subscribing if you are brand new to the channel, or you just enjoy my content. Turn on the notification bell so you do not miss an upload. And you can join Tailgate Nation. Also leave a comment down below. Tell me your thoughts on this video and this week in the Big Ten. You can tell me your power rankings down below as well. Also share this video with everyone you know who likes Big Ten football as much as you and me. Remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. I'll see you guys on Thursday with my week 3 preview. Goodbye.